yelled at Tommy, then proceeded to run after her. "I'm going to get you, Tommy!" The two friends laughed and chased each other towards their homes. Tale number 8. Pete meets a new friend. Dark gray clouds and bellowing winds had circled Willow Tree Meadows by the time Pete and Tommy reached Pete's burrow. Pete said goodbye to Tommy and then headed down the narrow entryway. Pete's mom called his name from the kitchen.
"Pete, is that you?"
Pete replied quickly. "Yes, Mom, it's me."
"Great," she replied. "Please bring me the bags of split peas and carrots."
Pete sighed heavily. He had forgotten the bundle of food from Nutkin's market on the ground where he and Tommy had been talking. Before his mother could say another word, he yelled, "I'll be right back!" Pete quickly turned and headed back outside. Hoping to beat the oncoming storm, Pete hopped swiftly back to where he had left the groceries. Pete's mom stopped what she was doing and called his name again. This time, Pete didn't answer. Mrs. Rabbit stopped cooking and hopped to the bottom of the burrow's entrance. She looked up at the open door where Pete had left it. She knew Pete had not done what she had asked him to do. She felt angry and disappointed in her son's lack of responsibility. Mrs. Rabbit hopped up the entryway and looked outside. She had not realized that there was a bad storm approaching. She became quite worried about Pete being caught in the storm. She hopped to the edge of the large willow tree and called out his name, hoping that he would hear her. He didn't answer. The winds were blowing fiercely, and the sky was dark.
"This is going to be a bad storm,"
she thought to herself. She stood there, pondering whether to go and find him. With a heavy sigh, Mrs. Rabbit turned and headed back inside her burrow. The thoughts that seemed to put her mind to rest was Pete was clever and fast. He would be able to take care of himself if he ran into trouble. Pete soon arrived at the place where he and Tommy had been talking. He saw the small bundle of food and picked it up. As he was about to head back home, he heard voices of humans and a barking dog coming his way. Pete ducked down and peered through the tall blades of grass. He was especially afraid of adult humans. When Pete was younger, he had a frightening encounter with the farmer, Mr. McGregor. Ever since that time, he had been careful to stay away from adult humans. As the voices got closer, Pete could hear that the sounds were voices of little humans, not adults. These were the same voices that he had heard once before. It was the time he was watching the children feeding the geese. These were the voices of the children that were living at Mr. McGregor's farm. As the children got closer, Pete could see that they were wearing strange clothing, shoes, and hats. In one of the children's hand, he was holding over his head a strange stick-like object with a cover on it. Pete wanted to run, but was scared that the humans would see him, or even worse, the dog would get a whiff of him. So he waited patiently, hidden in the grass. The children soon walked past him, not realizing he was there. Thinking the danger had passed, Pete started to hop away. Suddenly he saw the dog unexpectedly break away. The dog barked loudly and raced in his direction. Pete stood, paralyzed. Just as the dog was about to leap on top of him, one of the children grabbed the rope that was attached to the dog's neck.
"Dauber, come back here,"
the boy shouted.
"What's your problem?"
At that moment, Pete sprung from his hiding place and hurried towards home carrying the bundle of groceries. The dog pulled free from the boy and began running after Pete. Pete could hear voices screaming and the grunting of the dog behind him. The dog was fast, but luckily Pete was much faster. He hopped back and forth heading towards a bushy area, hoping to escape the dog's teeth. At that exact moment, he heard an unfamiliar voice. "In here!" cried the small voice. Pete, trusting his instinct, headed towards the sound of the voice. With one big leap, Pete jumped inside a dark, narrow hole, not knowing what to expect. The dog's yelps suddenly stopped, and the little human's voices could be heard disciplining the dog for its behavior. Outside the hole, a voice said,
"Sorry about that, little rabbit. He won't hurt you."
From inside of the hole, Pete could hear the rain pounding on the ground. Then he heard the footsteps of the dog and the children as they hurried away.